Now, there's a big misconception when it comes to building a personal brand profile and or a personal brand and business, that it also just comes down to this one person who does it all. And that couldn't be further away from the truth. I always say it takes a village to do it properly. And today I'm super excited to be joined by one of the powerhouses who I've been working with for quite some time. And, truth told, I've had help for many, many years, but I've actually never introduced anyone publicly who is working behind the scenes, who makes it all happen. We are joined by one of my incredible, it's officially an OBM service, but at the same time, I would say very much part of the furniture and part of the team. Lyra Almoite is joining us today. Lyra, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so excited to be here.
Now, to be honest, I can't even remember how long we've been working together. It feels like forever, and that's a good thing because, as I said, you're part of the furniture. You've worked with me and on my businesses for a while and in so many different aspects. Your specialization is OBM, but it goes way beyond just doing the normal VA, virtual assistant services.
Mhm.
Firstly, what is OBM to start with, and how did you get into this industry and profession?
All right. So OBM literally stands as an online business manager. So I really look into it as the someone who puts everything together from project management, launch management, um, managing contractors, and all of that stuff. Um, Most of the time, it gets a little bit confused with virtual assistant, which assistant can be different things as well. At its most basic definition, it can be pretty much someone who does your admin job, and that's it. But there are also specialized VAs, like maybe social media VA or tech VA. But I think for our service, and I'm sure you are familiar with this as well because you are also engaging with my team. It has transformed from being just an OBM to becoming more of an end-to-end operational support as well. Personally, I did start um as an OBM, but most of my clients when I started doesn't necessarily have time to hire an OBM and then a VA. So I plan and do things, and I also execute um everything that we have been talking about. So now it has come to a point where I have a full house team with the graphic designers, with the copywriters or content creators, as well as account managers or VAs that like puts everything together. So it's more like a really good support, especially for starting coaches where like they have one point person who can help them with most of the things that they need operationally in order to run their business. And
Mm.
really what got um me into here is well, first I got really fed up with the corporate. I was like, I don't want to be in the corporate anymore. So I have explored ways how I can still, build a career, um still have money, be able to travel. I just felt back then that corporate was too restrictive um for me. So I started doing this, and then I started being a VA or a project manager for agencies and all that. And the first few years of being a remote employee, I would say, for some reason something always happens in February. I'm not sure why. It gives me um like as much as I enjoy, I was like, oh, this is so nice. I love being able to take my work anywhere. Like I bring my laptop to cafes with pride, and being able to work in the airports, like I wear that with so much pride before. But like everything happens with February, that either I would lose a project or something would happen to a client that would change our working relationship status. So at the one point I was like, I can't be dealing with this every year. So I was like, okay, I need to like be able to somehow control it by instead of being the employee or the remote employee, I need to be the one who actually controls when I can take projects, what projects I can take, and how I will be able to sustain that all year long. I mean, I sometimes joke around this, like, yeah, I no longer have those February scares anymore, but sometimes it's now an all year round scares.
Yes, very true. But at the same time, you also just mentioned you've expanded. Like I found you on Instagram.
Yes.
And I'm pretty sure somebody tagged you and then was like, who's this Lyra person? Seems amazing. And then we were chatting, and initially it was just you doing everything with and for me. And now you said you've got a full agency, that you've expanded the
Mhm.
services and so forth. I think especially over or through 2020, when a lot of businesses have gone online, the demand has also increased. But what kind of changes have you seen in the last couple of years when it comes to the services, when it comes to the support? What are businesses and business owners are looking for when they think of building a team, but maybe are not quite at the stage to employ a full-time staff?
I would say the changes between before and now is previously, especially when things got started during the pandemic, most of the business owners are just focused on getting things done. But I would say right now, there's more business owners who are more systems and processes inclined. Like they have understood that, oh yes, as much as it's good to get things done, I need to have some level of process and automations with it. And also some people have also understood now, not some, but quite a lot understood that we can automate a lot of things. I think it's actually AI that brought this conversation back to the table where, oh yeah, I can automate this. There is also a possibility where I don't necessarily need to hire someone, but I can just have the tech work for me.
Absolutely. And this is probably a question that I ask all the time. How can we automate that? How can we create steps? How can, do this? And I just want everything to talk to each other, that I don't have to actually go in there or have anyone else depending on that. Because in the end, this is probably one of the biggest bottlenecks of personal brands and personal branded businesses, that they feel and think it all comes down to them. They have to respond to every email. They have to send out every, check up, every follow up, every invoice. And truth told, you don't. But at the same time, you need to have a system and a process in place to make it work and smooth and so forth. What have you seen in terms of the personalization? What are people afraid of? Because often they say, I don't want to be sound like, very robotic, or that AI or technology is the first point of contact when they actually want to work with me. How do you overcome this objection working with your clients?
Um, I usually, I mean, I didn't really start telling my clients this until very recently, because it's just very recently that I have somehow found words into it. So if okay, so let's say for example, the clients would say like, oh, I don't want to do that because I want to make sure I have a great client experience. And then we will dig down into things like, okay, but what does a great client experience mean with you? Does that mean having this answer, this number of emails received? Like I need them to like really be able to put into words and be able to explain to me in granular information what that looks like. Because if their answer to me is gonna say, oh, that's just not how I would do it, but you can't put words to how you're doing it, that's more like, oh, that's actually your anxiety talking. It's not systems or process. It's just that you're just so attached to this process that you want to do it yourself. So I think at this point you're not ready to delegate it. Like you don't want to do it, but you're not ready to delegate it yet, because even you don't know what that um, customer experience looks like what that great customer experience looks like, because you can't put into words of it.
Absolutely. And, this is also what I see working with my clients. And, some of my clients also work with your team from the execution point of view, that a personal brand is very intentional. It's very strategic. It's not, oh, I feel like posting, or I feel like doing this, or I feel like doing that. It's not how it works. In the second you don't have anything repeatable, you have an expensive hobby if you run a business, or you are not taking a personal brand that important. And this is why we start with look and feel and tone and voice. What kind of emojis are you using? What kind of phrases do you use? What colors best reflect your brand? And then you can outsource that. And this is where your team and your support comes in, that you need to have some kind of system and guidance and clarity what your brand should reflect, what kind of experience you want to put out there, and then we can translate it into technology, automation systems, and assets, and all of the above.
Right. Because even if I really think that as long as you're able to like put into words to what's happening in your head, like that is really a start of things. So sometimes it really just means, oh, as long as they have an immediate access to this and that, or they receive email confirmations, like those granular data is really important for you to automate things, because automation itself would also require you to verbalize what that micro action happen, or how those micro action happens as well, because a lot of the things are happening on your end intuitively. So let's say, oh, I'll connect this platform to this platform, but if you actually do the automation of that, you would notice like, oh, that's because this platform is doing this, and this platform is saying to this platform that this needs to happen, and this platform will process it the same way. Like being able to verbalize those in the granular data, that's, or in micro action steps, that's actually what automation is. So if you cannot verbalize what that is, you also cannot automate it or even delegate it in the first place.
Absolutely. I think actually delegation slash technology actually amplifies the lack of processes and a clear idea of what you're actually selling, because automation and technology and your OBM systems doesn't take away fundamental gaps. Like you've got different tools, but if there's not a system and a strategy behind the tools, they're useless. And there's so much conversation about AI, and we can do everything with AI. But again, if you can't actually delegate properly, and you can't give a proper prompt to an artificial intelligent bot, how can you, or to a person, you can't do it with a bot either, because then you get the same kind of bad quality answer and outcome. What do you see in terms of your services, how it involves, and also how AI impacts the whole industry and the skill sets that we need? How do you see the future with that?
Yeah, I think what AI does is make people think that everything is easy and like you can do things in AI, which is annoying at some point. I was like, yeah, then you do it. I'm just kidding. But it also, I mean, for me personally, if I wanted to run through an idea with my team, because as business owners, we have a lot of ideas. So normally what I would do, I call ChatGPT like my brainstorm buddy. Like I would type things in there and see how ChatGPT is, and because if I can put what's happening in my head into words and see how it is being received by ChatGPT, I'm quite sure my team would not be able to understand a single word I would say in the meeting. So normally that's how I would run through ChatGPT, like everything I wanted to do, see how it interprets it. Um, and sometimes it also gives good insights. Like again, you have to be really good at prompts as well. And also at the same time, you need to know what you want, because you can't prompt something that you don't have a clear picture um of what you want. And this is something that a lot of designers are saying, because they were like, oh, AI is gonna replace design, or the designers or photographers and all of that stuff. But that's one joke that they always have told. But yeah, part of our job is actually mostly to figure out what the client actually wants. And ChatGPT cannot do that. So I don't think it would replace these roles in the business, but I would say it can make things quicker for you as well. Because now, aside from well, one, aside from being a consultant, you can sort of run through things, ChatGPT first, and see like how it is gonna be received. Um, at the same time, that once you start using AI tools, I think that also gives you an idea what the help technology can look like for your business. So it also opens you to the possibilities of, oh yeah, I can automate this, or oh, I can use a tool for this. Because even ChatGPT would tell you like, oh, you can actually automate it, or you can use the tools like this and that to do this. So it would open you to possibilities like that. And these AI tools are trained with a lot of information that's already available in the internet. It just makes information quicker for you.
Absolutely. And you also mentioned something very profound, I think, is that you still need to have the clarity as to what do you want? Where do you want to go? What is the gap? Because if you don't know that, the best tools won't do anything for you either. And I think, what your team does really well is asking a lot of questions, because this is the foundation of strategy. What do you want? Where are the gaps? What does an ideal future state look like? Because it makes people think. And this is the same with the personal brand strategy. Often clients say, I just want to have a lot of influence. It's like, what does it even mean? Influence about
Yeah.
what, to whom, how many? It
Yeah.
doesn't
Does
work
that
like
mean
that.
having followers?
Exactly. Yeah, you can buy some. Good luck with it. Like, we're not in the business of fake followers. But this is, I think, where also the skill sets evolve. It's a lot more asking questions, being curious for a lot longer, and then doing the doing through automation and technology, but still getting the inspiration through tools like AI and so forth. Now, how do you?
Yeah.
Because as you also said, you've built and grown your team with skill sets. Like, some team members have upskilled, others you have brought in with additional skill sets. How do you go about keeping them up to date, and also upskill them?
Um, Keeping up to date is usually starts with me, because personally I do love exploring new things. Like, I can geek out with tech at any given day, and I can fidget with it a lot of times. And I know personally I can overdo this just like anyone else. But when I have an amazing discovery, like for example, oh, we can actually just create a zap and like it would do this and that. And as much as I can, I try to transfer those knowledge to my team in different ways. Sometimes that means, okay, shadow me while I'm doing this, so next time, or for other clients, you can start doing the same thing. And sometimes that also means trusting them. Like, we have been working, most of my team members have been working with me for at least a year, so they have enough knowledge how I operate and all that. And we also have some basic guidelines when it comes to like communicating, and that part of it is actually asking a lot of questions. Like, if something is not clear with you, ask questions. And that also helps them somehow think the same way I would do it, or at least 70-80% how I would do it. And that really helps the same. So when they start doing things in behalf of me, usually what I would do, like, okay, just do what you want, or like do how you would do it, and then let me know what's your thought process later. And then if I spot something like, okay, this is how I would do it. And I think that is a really helpful practice for us, because teaching and doing is different. Like, I can teach you, and they can absorb that information and tell me like, oh yeah, I understand it, but they don't really understand it until they do it. So you have to let them at some point. And I think that's a process that I have become more patient of, because it really requires patience. Because sometimes it would be like, oh, it's just gonna take me 5 minutes to do it. But if I have to teach it and create a Loom video out of it, it's gonna take me 15 minutes. So yeah, it really requires a lot of patience. But again, it also starts with the business owner or the founder or the CEO, because you also set the tone for the whole team. If you yourself are not exploring things, you cannot expect your team members to like come up to you and tell you like, hey, this is a new thing, can we try this? For them that would look like extra work, because they already know that this business is not about, it's just about getting things done, it's not about exploring new things. But for us, we have defined that from the very beginning, that I myself is doing this. I wanted to explore things, I wanted to improve our services, because this is what it means for us: increased workload or referrals. And like on their end was that also means like maybe performance bonuses, um or even just sort of stabilizing their role in the organization as well. So yeah, I feel like I have gotten a little bit off track, but yeah, it's mostly that.
I think you mentioned two very profound things that I want to come back with. First, you said you ask your team for their thought process. And I don't think many leaders actually do that. They just say, tell me what you would do. And they would just rattle it up, but they don't think, and why is that? Simply this one more question is clarifying so much, because again, it comes down to the questioning and questioning themselves. Is it the right way to go? It doesn't mean it's right or wrong. We're just staying curious for a little bit longer. There's the book Michael Bunya's 10 Year, The Coaching Habit. And he says to stay curious for a little bit longer, and simply this one more question. And why is that? Or talk me through your thought process. That is a challenge, and people want to be challenged and growing, and this is also where they see their own gaps. And then the other thing that you said was, and make it relevant to them, like you are translating what it actually means to the business and what the impact is on them. And this is, I think, where so many leaders miss that opportunity out again. They just say, we need to achieve goal XYZ, we need to get to this KPI. Okay, but if there's no purpose and connection to what's relevant for me as a contributor, I do it, maybe I don't do it, who knows? But you very much incentivize your team to go above and beyond, because there's something in it for them. So, you're an incredible leader, if you know it or not. Here's a little feedback.
Thank you.
I think this is really something to highlight, because I work with a lot of, ASX leaders and leaders from large organizations, and they don't think like that. Because they usually have grown up through the ranks, just do it, get it done, as you just said before, get the KPIs, then you get a bonus, but they're not able to translate it to this next level, who is actually doing the doing. And this is why they are often not getting the results.
Right.
Now, switching gears for a second, because there's this big buzzword around scaling and growing a business. There's a big difference, firstly, between growing a business and also a personal brand, and scaling. In your definition, what does scaling actually mean, that we are on the same page here?
For me, scaling really means being able to 10x your current business operations without things falling apart. It's really as simple as that.
I love it. And when we talk about especially person brands, like you work with a lot of coaches and with consultants, and in the end, it all comes down to them as a person, to their relationships. And often people say, well, I don't want to build a business around me, but you don't have to. How do you go about supporting your clients who have got this person branded business when you say, I want to scale? So we talked a little bit about the processes already. What else do you need to get from them in order for you to do your best work?
It again, it really starts and almost ends in clarity, and also trying to define what the brand actually is outside you as a person, because I think that's one thing that's not often defined just because they feel like, oh, let's say Petrozinc, they feel like they are the brand. But even if it's a personal brand, I don't think that they are a brand. So let's say the brand could look like, oh, if I'm working with Petrozinc, that means I'm an influential leader. And what does the experience look like for, or what is the experience either look like, or what's the best experience that's fitting for an influential leader? Or if I'm working with Petrozinc, for example, oh, that means I'm smart. Like, what do smart people want? Like, it's really how you define those things. It's not actually you, but for most of the time, just because it's personal brand, it's our name, we're very, very attached to it. So our personal preferences, like the comments that, oh, I wouldn't have done it this way, sometimes it's hard to let go of those.
But I think this is where the systemized and packaged IP comes in, because I think it makes it easier. So many personal branded businesses and coaches, they are worried to market themselves because they think, if I get a no, people reject me. And I said, it's not about you, it's about the IP that you package together, that you can create results for others. And all of a sudden it's going away from you to what's in it for others engaging with you. And you're right, then you can scale it, because in a second, what's the best outcome that I want to be known for and I can deliver. Then we can work backwards. How can we best make it work? What kind of systems do we need to use? What kind of support do we need? And we also do, for example, content for some of our clients, and we're working together on that. So I'm writing the captions, but your team is designing and then actually doing all the business post captions. Like, you can scale a personal branded content or business very easily once you've got those foundations. Now, are there any other downfalls or misconceptions that you are seeing that people, they may want to have some support but they don't get anywhere because there's just not the right foundation there?
I would say misconception would always be that they still need to do everything. I mean, their words would always say that, oh, I need support, blah, blah, blah. But I don't think mentally they are prepared for the support, because they will be like, they end up micromanaging things like, oh, I need this and that, or they just have a lot of uneasiness with that. But also I think it's about setting expectation when it comes to communication. I mean, for our end, we're very upfront that our team members are working in different time zone. I'm also working in a very odd schedule. So like, I'm very upfront that, okay, our communication is a sync. We'll respond to you as soon as we got a chance. Definitely it's within 24 hours, but it's not instant and all that. So I think setting those expectations would really help in terms with working with a team or scaling. And another misconception that I wanted to address would be like, oh, I have to do this myself in order to get it right, because other people can get it right. In fact, other people might execute it a lot better than you would. So you just need to be sort of open about it and be really clear what output you are actually delegating.
Absolutely. And I think it comes back to trust, because your recommendations that you always come back with is always so much better than what I think should be the case. Like, oh, I haven't even thought about that. Yep, go ahead. Because you always deliver. And, when we also come back on, the systems and the tools and so forth, you always have an answer to everything. Like I say, I want to do this. Oh, I've tried something new. What about this? And, this is, I think, the real value add, because it's what the trust authority in the end is also all about. You become the translator of your knowledge, and your job, quote unquote, is to scout out what's new, what's happening, how does it impact the industry, what can I do better for my clients, because the client is usually not in your remit, so they're not exposed to this kind of information and expertise all day, every day. And let's geek out for a second, because I know we both love tech and tools and systems and all of those fun things. What are your go-to tech assets that you cannot live without? Have you got any favorites?
My current favorite right now is actually ChatGPT and Zapier. So Zapier has been my all-time favorite since I met it, because I was like, it's just so amazing to make tools talk to each other. And it actually helped me and even my clients to actually spend our working hours to the things that need us to think, because like the mundane task can already be automated. So I feel like that's a better working hours spend. And ChatGPT, I use it for almost everything, like everything I wanted to run through, like, or I mean, it's very obvious. I tend to like answer things in a longer format. So sometimes I would run through ChatGPT, like, hey, can you make this a little bit more concise?
uh, I'm guilty of that too, because my sentences are usually 16 lines long. But at least we know our blind spots and know how to work on that. So
Right.
again, it comes down to the clarity and knowing where to start, right? Now, the next question, and probably as we wrap up, some people consider outsourcing, getting staff on board, automating things. How do we know what's the right way for us to go? What should we automate? What should we delegate? What should we outsource for somebody else to do rather than us? Have you got a bit of a guideline how we can get
Mhm.
the journey started?
Right. So normally for us and even our clients, we really start with the routine lead tasks. And sometimes I actually ask my clients, like, hey, can you track your time so we can take a look at it? And sometimes I go over in detail, like, oh, you mentioned that you have been doing this and that, or replying to um this client. Like, what does that look like? Can you show me what that does look like? And definitely some of them requires a little bit more thought processing. But you can still put a guideline to it, like, hey, if a client is asking about a billing, this is what you would do. Or, if it's a returning client, like if it's, let's say, 100 below $200, for example, okay, it's an automatic refund, because I don't want to give them a bad experience. I want to make sure that I'm taking their stuff or their complaints or whatever seriously and all that. So that could start with that. And actually, if once you start tracking your own time, you would see which ones you are actually delegating. Like the ones that you see are popping up in a routinely basis. Oh, I keep doing this every week. Like this is becoming a routinely. And as business owners, really your time is best spent creating content, creating new programs, creating results for your clients. So like doing repetitive things, as long as you'll be able to identify what that is and put guidelines into it, you would be able to delegate it. And you can also see from there, like, okay, this is very tech based. This is literally a matter of clicking a button on this app and then clicking another button on that app. That's if it's very tech based, definitely you can automate it. But it's more like there's a little bit of thought process into it. Most likely that's something that you need to delegate instead of automate.
I love it. So, and this brings us, I think, full circle back. If you are not able to delegate it to a person who can ask clarifying questions, you can't expect automation or ChatGPT or any AI tools to give you the magic outcome, because it's just not going to happen.
Right.
Well, Lyra, I love working with you and your team. And, as I said, you have evolved so much over the years, and so have clients. And I think to stay relevant in any of your careers, whatever you do and wherever you are, you need to be constantly curious and try things, and also enable others and trust them to figure it out and, go new ways, because it's exactly how you grow. So thank you again for everything that you do, for being the leader who you are, and for being such a tremendous support to me and my businesses.
You're welcome. And we do love working with you. We love geeking out with the nitty-gritty stuff of your business.
Well, know that now people are like, okay, I need to find Lyra and the team. Where can we do that? How can we connect? How can we work together? What was the best way to connect with you?
Really, right now the best way is to go over Instagram, find the home base worker and send me a DM. Or you can also go over to my website at thehomebaseworker.com, but you would get quicker answers in Instagram.
Excellent. And we'll definitely also put the links in the show notes as you would know best. So yeah, again, thank you so much. And I'm excited for what's ahead for us.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this session.
I'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks.